And welcome back to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from Better Ways to Die. That's a name. And there are better ways to die, depending on what you're comparing it to. Who asked the question, who would win in a fight? Space Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla versus Sombra, King Sombra from My Little Pony. Okay, I guess we'll start with King Sombra first. I'm not a My Little Pony guy, so be kind. But King Sombra was a male, initially Umbran unicorn, the former tyrannical ruler of the Crystal Empire, and the main antagonist in the Season 3 premiere of the Season 9 premiere series. The Season 3 premiere, the Season 9 premiere, and the IDW Comics 13th story arc. And My Little Pony / Transformers 2, Princess Celestia. God, they actually did legitimate crossovers. Point being is that he was a powerful sorcerer and, villain. Now, he did eventually get turned to good, but his magic apparently involved, he was, as I said, sorcerer, or magician, wizard, whatever. He used dark magic. He could generate black crystals that function as weapons and neutralize the magic. He could also turn his body into shadow to dodge attacks and travel large distances. He is also powerful enough to cast a curse that makes the Crystal Empire disappear. In the beginning of the end, Sombra demonstrated the ability to subjugate ponies into doing his bidding with his gaze, as well as show ponies their greatest fear. He can also conjure helmets, which serve the same function as mind control from out of thin air. So, tyrannical ruler, evil guy, summons crystals, great. Now, when it's the crystals that stuck out to me, because it was when I saw that, I'm like, okay, that's why you asked for this fight. Because Space Godzilla, obviously, has a lot to do with crystals, as you can see. Space Godzilla, from his own respective movie, was essentially it's a kind of, even in the movie, they don't really explain it very well. This was a sequel to Godzilla vs. Biollante, which some of Godzilla's cells went into outer space. Now, if I remember correctly, the explanation was that they were sucked into a black hole, spat out of a white hole, and grown and evolved in an ecosystem completely separate to, our Earth. And then that's how Space Godzilla was born. So, yeah, life finds a way. But, regardless, Space Godzilla was powerful. Space Godzilla was larger than normal Godzilla, who's already huge. Had two different forms. His standard form, and his crystal travel form, which basically kind of made him look like a giant spiky crystal turtle, but allowed him to travel faster than light through space to get to Earth in a very short amount of time. When he landed on Earth, he proceeded to kind of whip Godzilla's ass a bit. And this is Heisei Godzilla. Heisei Godzilla is not the strongest version of Godzilla, but Heisei Godzilla is no chump. This is before him burning Godzilla, where he first destroyed it, and he was at his strongest. But prior to this, he had gone toe-to-toe with Biollante. This is the same Godzilla who would ultimately beat Mecha Godzilla and King Ghidorah one-on-one. Both of those guys were, particularly Ghidorah. Ghidorah is always depicted as a planetary-level threat. And Space Godzilla kind of came in and just whipped Godzilla's ass a bit. He has all the physicality Godzilla, including the giant turkey legs. Those thick, supple thighs with 17 C's. But beyond that, he also had his own version of the atomic breath, except it was more like lightning-based. He could do weird telekinetic stuff with his crystals. And the more crystals that were around, the stronger he became. He could actually terraform the planet and the area around him. And it strengthened his abilities. Now, by destroying crystals, you did weaken him. And he did have two very large weaknesses right on his shoulders. If you destroyed the two giant crystals on there, you weakened him considerably. Now, I say that, but keep in mind that any kaiju in Godzilla is at least a city-level threat, just due to existing. Either it's from the radiation they give off, or they literally just by taking a peaceful stroll through the city, they're going to cause massive havoc. And Space Godzilla was kind of depicted as being a bit malicious, so he is definitely not a weakling by any stretch of the means. So, The question is, who will win a fight between the crystal space monster versus the dark crystal magic user? For me, this comes down to simply who has something. Do either of these guys have something to kill the other? The short answer for Godzilla, Space Godzilla, is 100% yes. It's a little bit up in the air, though, when it comes to, or beat, I should say, kill or beat. It's a little bit more up in the air when it comes to Sombra. As it's stated, he can generate black crystals that function as weapons and neutralize magic. Well, there's no magic here, so that doesn't actually mean much. Sure, they can be used for stabbing and like maybe attacking him. Maybe they fire off energy. But again, Space Godzilla, like a normal Godzilla, usually tanks long-range fire attacks. His ability to turn into a shadow and travel large distances and avoid attacks would be useful. Can't argue that at all. It would be useful for avoiding attacks for a while, but eventually he probably would tire out. So if it's a battle of attrition, that doesn't help him. And he's also powerful enough to cast a curse that makes the Crystal Empire disappear. Great, that really doesn't serve any purpose. The only thing that you could make an argument for is that perhaps he could subjugate and you take over Space Godzilla with a gaze. But I'm guessing two things have to play a factor here. One, the person's will has to be weak enough to take control of. And B, it's like maybe magic versus magic, because it is still magic. When it comes to the magic, Space Godzilla doesn't have any of that. He's got his own internal energy source, but it's not magic. Arguably, the energy source could work, but we have seen kaiju be controlled by mind control before. But for me, I don't think the gaze works. This just comes from the fact that, A, he's so small that I think Space Godzilla wouldn't even be looking straight in his eyes at all. Because that's the thing, is like gazes after me, it's like, you're so small. Boom. But beyond that, and this came up a little bit with the Pennywise versus Godzilla video as well. Beyond that, I feel like the kaiju are a little bit more primordial and primeval and just too volatile to be just easily taken control of like that. People are trying to make an argument that Pennywise would control Godzilla. It's like, well, Godzilla has been used as mind control before to a certain degree. But we've also seen him shrug off similar attacks before. And Pennywise doesn't just take over minds. He usually transforms into someone, but he doesn't usually take over minds. But anyway, so all this basically leads to, in my mind, the result of, let's say Space Godzilla shows up at the Pony Kingdom. Sombra's like, how dare you, vile creature, however he talks. It sends like his crystal army. Space Godzilla's just like, crystals, cool. I'm just going to summon up these crystals, makes force fields. Very well, I'll take care of you myself. And just tries, what? He's not using magic? What? You're saying this is just his own power? He just swings his tail. He turns into a shadow, gets out of the way. He's like, how dare you? You will be mine. Tries to subjugate him. Can't make a helmet big enough. And it just breaks on his head. Or his energy just breaks it. You foul creature! You obey me! It just, either eats him or blasts him. I just think this, throwing a kaiju like Space Godzilla into the mix, I think is just a little too much for a character like this. And when they're not used to it either. So, I would probably go with Space Godzilla, but look, I tend to lean towards, in most of the My Little Pony fights I've had so far, I usually lean a bit more towards the other character. That's not because I know less about the other characters. Admittedly, if there's abilities I'm not finding about them, that is me knowing less. But it's not because I know more or I like the other character better. It's because I don't think My Little Pony abilities really stack up to super powerful beings very well. Hell, let's just take a random one for example here. Let's say, so My Little Pony abilities could stand up against lower level magic that isn't just instantaneous. Gandalf, for instance, My Little Ponies would square off very well against Gandalf. Their magic can be used like that, whereas magic in Lord of the Rings is not like I cast a spell. No, there's a little prep time, or it takes a moment for him to chant something or something like that. Whereas if you were to go, say, use magic users in like Doctor Strange, hell, and even like just the movie Doctor Strange, well, they're just as quick on the draw as the ponies. They can do far more many things. Now, not just the movies. What about the comics where you're talking about literally warping realities or popping supernovas like Tic Tacs? So it's just a matter of how your abilities stack up, and I just don't think they stack up well against most kaiju. Maybe more simple kaiju, like say a Anguirus or an Ebera. But when you're talking about like some of the big daddy kaiju, like this truly like powerhouses that could like destroy the planet, Space Godzilla would fall into that category. Then you're talking about levels of power that I don't think My Little Pony characters are really equipped to handle usually. Discord doesn't count because Discord already exists in the universe, and there's other ways to take him out, not just beat him straight on. So anyway, I would go Space Godzilla, but this is just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.